Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today I wanted to talk about Subsumption, the mission system and economy features that should all be coming out with 3.0, as well as a little bit about 3.1 and 3.2, as some of these features might get pushed back to then, and it's all kind of connected. But the overarching kind of thing that we're talking about here is Subsumption. So what is Subsumption? Subsumption in the context of Star Citizen is a group of features that connect, link together and partly control NPCs, AI, conversational logic, missions, dynamic content, and the economy. For 3.0, it's going to be the initial release of the foundation technologies that drive all of that. The mission system is a big part of that. So the idea of Subsumption for missions is to create as much varied and unique content as possible, as well as having it dynamically created based on the universe needs. They also need it to be highly detailed too. So there's this dynamic algorithmic component, but also it's going to be using modular created content as well. Modules kind of bolted on of parts of missions. So the mission flow graphs that they used to use have been converted over to Subsumption for 3.0 and this new mission system. The overall system is used to create mission flows when they start to build missions like patrol, assassination, smuggling, and all that sort of jazz. The devs are able to use this to create missions and variety much quicker and easier. In 3.0, we'll have the Solar System mission service, which is basically this way of the God AI, or the mini God AI in this case, looking after missions for Subsumption. Basically, it's going to dictate what missions are offered at various locations and how much we'll get for those missions. It's also responsible for specifying where and when dynamic content should be instigated and how it's going to be customized. That way, the players in the particular area they see will kind of match what's going on around their area from information gathered in the back-end rule set and simulation. And that back-end simulation that correlates all this data together for working out what's going on with missions, what's going on in the economy, what's going on with the NPCs, and what other missions have been completed and stuff, will become its own service, the dynamic content service, but in 3.0, it's kind of connected all together, it's more merged together. But in 3.1, it's going to get blocked out and it's going to get its own service as it gets more fleshed out with more functionality. There will be better functionality for mission givers and quest tracking. They're going to be introducing Miles Eckhart, which was first seen in Gamescom video in 2016, but also Ruto, who I believe is actually Ortwin, if you've seen some of the tweets that Sandy put out, to provide players missions, basically. And these missions might be very theme park ridey, and they might be missions that are of quite a high quality to test those out, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what they want to do with those mission givers. There'll be other ways of getting missions too. The Moby-Glass is going to have better functions for tracking missions, and eventually it will be tracking player missions from service beacons too, with the Mission Manager and Mission Board apps. We're also going to have a simple version of Reputation in 3.0. Mission givers will talk to you and treat you in a particular way based on if you've worked with them before. Are you an outlaw? Are you lawful? What missions have you done with them before? Some missions might only be available when a particular reputation is met, or completion of a particular mission, and this may affect mission trees, what happens during your mission, and what NPCs say to you. Eventually, this is going to get much more complex, allowing for you, your org, all the missions, what ship you have, what equipment you have, all the people you've worked for previously, and what you've done in the verse, as well as what's happening in the local area, and what other players have done to affect how NPCs treat you, what missions you get offered, and their outcomes. They also have these mission libraries, which they're starting to build now. As they create more and more mission content from patch to patch, they're going to be able to expand their libraries of missions. Missions are created partly, as I said earlier, from an algorithm, but also from modular content. The mission libraries will hold all sorts of missions and parts that can be slotted together for some extremely fun, unique, and ever-changing gaming experiences, as well as keeping that really hot fidelity that Star Citizen is all about. After 3.0, so from patches 3.1 to 3.2, we're going to see some lots and lots of new mission and game content and additions to the older ones. We're going to see recovery missions, planetary FPS ambush missions, piracy missions, patrol missions, transport missions, assassination missions, more patrol missions, smuggling missions, more piracy missions, and defense missions. Expect lots and lots of different variation as well based on these, lots of different endings possible. But for 3.0, expect lots of new missions and some of them to be pretty varied using that mission system. We're going to see expansions to the older missions that we already have, as well as some very finely crafted theme park missions from Miles, Eckhart, and Ruta, I suspect. There's going to be a couple of other things that I kind of want to talk about here that is notable for 3.0. They mention a crash site mission in the schedule report, and all of this kind of data can be found in the schedule report, robertspaceindustries.com / schedule-report. Go check that out. It's updated every Friday. You can get more information about the schedule report for 3.0, when it's coming out, when it's planned to come out at the very least, and all the content that's going to be going into that, what they're working on, what blockers are, and that sort of stuff. So they mention this crash site mission. Expect various ships crashed on moons that you might have to recover the black box for, or another item from. We might see the Javelin, as we know that's already been blocked out and wrecked. We might see the Idris, and we might see some other big ships too in that sort of crash site missions, like think Starfarers and things as well. But also you might see like a ship graveyard, for example. There might be some sort of planetary hazard which has caused ships to crash. And planets, planetary FPS ambush mission version 1 is a possibility as well in 3.0. They talk of a version 2 happening in 3.1. So I would expect some FPS fighting missions moonside in 3.0 with the possibility of this version 1 of their planetary ambush missions. Yeah, I mean, I think well, obviously expected some NPCs to be planetside to fight, so hopefully that will be in 3.0. There was also a mention of the outpost spawning system ready for mission designers. It makes sense that modular outposts wouldn't just be used for exploration, but they're going to be used for missions and spawned in possibly for specific missions, or at least NPCs and assets and mission items might spawn in at that location for specific missions. They might already be there, already exist there as objects, and then other stuff spawn in around them. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how they implement stuff for spawning mission items in. Will whole outposts spawn for a mission and then despawn later, or will it be much more they will spawn around these set locations and items just spawn in rather than whole set pieces? I would expect various types of fetch missions too in 3.0. If you're trying to do the same mission again and again, it should be different every time you do it as well. That it's got, it could be in a different location, you might get ambushed, it might lead on to additional missions and hidden loot. The idea with that dynamic system that they're bringing on with Subsumption means that it's going to be very varied content, and it won't be as predictable as other games. Encounters. So space is going to be busier with more NPCs flying around. You might see cargo ships, pirates, or convoys. You might get random encounters around the system. This will be, you could be whether you're on a mission, minding your own business, or even if you're running cargo. And that might necessitate, if you're running cargo especially, to kind of bring in escorts and to actually hire people to escort you. Some of these missions may be trackable missions via your mobi-glass as well, like you've detected a distress signal. A player might have put out a request job nearby to say, come and fuel me or whatever, or a convoy might be being raided that's an NPC convoy, for example. Others might just be quite enclosed encounters that just make the game feel more alive. Now, with patches 3.0 to 3.2, we'll see this sort of encounter slowly be phased into the game and more be fleshed out as the patches go along. It's good to know that they want to encourage players into the same area for various reasons as well. Now, you might be on a similar mission to someone else, you might be looking in the same area for valuable loot. There might be reasons to cooperate or to fight or just to have some form of tension, but the idea is to try and funnel players into the similar area for that emergent gameplay. Also, Easter eggs like Benny's Henge will start to appear from update to update. We don't know if there's going to be any in 3.0. I suspect there will be, but they will be hidden and secret, so people will probably find them pretty quick though. The economy. So the economy is tied to Subsumption, especially in 3.0, well, especially from 3.0 onwards, using various methods. Missions will be created partly on the needs of the economy of a given area, what resources are available, what is required to build an item or ship, what missions have been being done. This will eventually feed back into the mission system, creating bring cargo here, or kill these pirates, preventing trade ships coming through, that sort of stuff. In 3.0, we're going to have the solar system shop service, which will dictate what retail products, natural resources, services, and shops are willing to buy and sell them, and at what prices. It decides the current level of inventory, prices, all of which will vary over time and based on situations and what's happening on that particular server at that given time. The shopping experience version 2 is going to be in 3.0 as well. This is going to allow the purchasing of many more items, hopefully, via in-game locations, shops, mobiGlas apps, and shopping kiosks, as well as players to be able to buy and sell various commodities in the game world to vendors throughout the verse, throughout at least Crusader, which will be the system that we have, and to, as I said, many locations. It should also be a better shopping experience in general. Some UIs and stuff would have been improved. Eventually, too, AI and NPCs will try and compete and complete for these missions to fulfill the economy's needs. The hope is that we will eventually, hopefully as early as 3.0, be able to purchase ships in-game with Alpha UBC from, as I said, 3.0 onwards, hopefully, and I'm very much in favour of that possibility, and I will keep on poking CIG for them to put ships in as soon as possible for purchase. NPC AI, in a broader sense, we're going to be getting better and better AI from 3.0 onwards. They're adding the ability for AI to operate turrets in Crusader, their pathfinding is going to get better and better, they're going to be able to use items, same items as we're going to be able to use, they're going to have a much better situational awareness, and they're going to have personalities and this sort of stuff as well. So part of Subsumption ties in with animations and using them to make NPCs come to life. We should see some more movement and life in NPCs in 3.0. We're likely to see barmen and commuters and shoppers in certain areas, but they will eventually have NPCs having full 24-hour schedules, whether they're combat NPCs, whether they're missions spawned NPCs, whether they're just NPCs running around on ships or whatever. They're going to be interacting with all the objects and items that we can, but having their own personalities, which will tie them to certain animations, behaviours, and skill sets. Eventually, Subsumption is going to allow us to have NPC crews, complex battles with capital ships, and we're going to have much more fleshed out versions of this early system from 3.0 as the patches go ahead. So even 3.1 and 3.2 is going to have significantly better and more fleshed out Subsumption for all of these features. So we're also going to see stuff like persistent dynamic NPCs, where the big AI, the Subsumption AI or God AI, whatever people want to call it, remembers the names of players, NPCs, mission histories, and includes it in other people's missions or your missions in the future. You might have a particular pirate that you've encountered that killed you once, or that you will see again. Will be various forms of wildlife as well, with their own traits, schedules, and that sort of stuff as well. That will all be controlled by Subsumption in the future. But we will talk about that once we have them. And that's basically what I wanted to talk about. Every month we give away a ship. For May, it's an Avenger Titan. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and then comment on any of my Star Citizen content during that month. In the past, have you preferred handcrafted linear missions in games? Or do you like to go alone in a sandbox and do your own thing? In Star Citizen, what sort of mission type do you like the sound of so far? Do you have any questions for me or about Star Citizen's development? A special thank you to my Patreons who allow me to create the amount of content that I do. If you are interested in becoming one of them, please find the link to Patreon down below in the comments and the description, as well as links to everything else that we've discussed. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I will see you in the verse.